On behalf of all of us, I offer our most loving salutations to Bhagawan for this opportunity to be here today and share some insights about life application. Thank you. Sairam to all brothers and sisters. It's wonderful being here amongst all of you and enjoying this lovely satsang that we are having. So let us begin. Yeah. So let us, let's talk about what is life application. So life application is it's an extension of group activity that group activity is done in the class, and life application is an extension of group activity, and it's practiced outside of the classroom environment. So life application gives us an opportunity to practice the value or the spiritual principle that was being taught in the class in our day-to-day life. It's kind of, you can imagine when somebody decides to be a pilot, they learn how to fly on a simulator flight. And as they get better, they learn all the operations, then they are given they're put in a real plane. Similarly, group activity allows us to simulate how to practice these values, sub-values that we are learning. And then life application becomes the real flight where we have to practice this in our day-to-day life. And it also allows for assimilation of what we have learned in our class into our daily lives. So that's just a quick, big overview of what life application is. So why is life application important? And I think this requires some thinking and some understanding. So I'll spend some time talking about this. So humans are part of the mammal family, and if we look at the habits of mammal, the newborns of all mammals, except humans, they become self-sufficient in a very short period of time. When a calf is born to a cow, within a couple of hours, the calf gets up and knows how to feed itself. However, when a human baby is born, the baby is quite dependent for every single aspect of its survival. If you look at the baby's body systems, whether it's nervous system, respiratory, digestive system, they are pretty immature at birth. Even though humans have the largest brain, we find ourselves that we are not able to become quickly independent right after birth. So what happens? A baby needs help with every aspect of its survival. The baby learns slowly to hold its neck by itself. It learns to smile. Then it starts to roll over, and then it starts sitting without any support, and it crawls and it walks, etc., etc. So how does the baby do this? And the way baby does this is, baby is self-learning in a way. The baby's moving its arms and legs during the waking hours. And in that process, the baby is strengthening them. The baby's building muscle. And this requires, as you know, requires a lot of practice. And over time, they are able to succeed in the most basic activity. Now, as they get a little bit older, they learn hand-mouth coordination. They learn to feed themselves. And then he or she learns to speak, read, write. And all these activities are accomplished by constant practice. And as we look at all the other extracurricular activity that the child gets involved in as it grows, whether it's sports, music, dance, etc., we notice that the child gets better and better with each activity as he or she practices it more and more. So it's pretty clear, brothers and sisters, the way we learn is by practice. And all these activities that I talked about, they are related to our physical or mental skills. And and we know that, we become better at it by practicing. So what about spiritual skills? If our physical and mental skills need so much practice, what about our spiritual skill? And so at birth, we are also gifted with the gems of 5 human values, as Swami says. And how can these values manifest in our life without practice? So life application is a way that provides us to put this into practice by the lessons that we have learned in our class. This is how we are able to practice this. And the more we practice, the easier it gets for us to manifest these values in our day-to-day lives. So practice will make the values our second nature. And when the values become a habit, we will use them in most difficult and challenging situations. See, it's very easy to practice values when everything is going well, but we have to have a lot of practice in order to put them to use when things are difficult and challenging. Look at the example of a baby. When the baby learns, or we as humans, we learn how to feed ourselves, we take our hand and we are able to bring the food to our mouth. Now, it doesn't matter whether the room has light or it's dark. We are able to do it under any condition. Similarly, when we practice these values and sub-values in our daily life regularly, no matter what the situation is, whether we are in a place where somebody is getting irate at us, or we are in a place where everyone is cooperative and we are able to put into practice these values. So that's why, it's a muscle. Life application is a muscle that we all need to develop, and SSE provides a perfect vehicle to develop that muscle. It gives us that practice over time to be able to do that. So that's why life application is important, because otherwise, without practice, we will not be able to manifest the goodness that's inside of us. So what is the goal of life application? So before we look at the goal of life application, let's look at what is the goal of SSE. And the goal of SSE is educare. It's to bring out what's within us. And life application is a way to make the practice of sub-values, which become a habit, and that leads us to educare. So life application really is, if a lesson plan is really incomplete, it's only half a plan if we do not practice life application. Life application is one of the most critical components of a lesson plan. So how to prepare a life application? And here you see that we have a floor plan of a house, and we can go from one room to another in any order. We don't have to figure out that, to get to the dining room, we only can go through, one way. It can be traversed in any way, from any room to any room. Similarly, if you look at your lesson plan, it's also a floor plan where we can do our lesson in any order. We can start with a prayer, or we can end the class with a prayer. We can start with an activity. And so the key component of this is that everything that we do in the lesson plan, all components, they must all connect to the same spiritual principle. And so the first thing that's really important is that life application must connect with the spiritual principle we are trying to cover in the class. And that's true of all the other components as well. But that's the first thing to bear in mind as we start preparing life application. Now, again, the other component of life application is that we need to make it relevant to day-to-day life. So we almost have to get in the shoes of group 2 group 2 students and live their lives and see how they could practice it in what they do in their daily life. Again, it should be something simple, understandable, and doable, something that they can actually practice. And again, it's good to plan so that, you know, they can track it, provide some sort of mechanism for them to do that. Also give consideration of the, you know, any special needs of children that they may have or circumstances. If you have that in your class, think about it. And basically, you know, you're basically telling them how to do it, what to do it, when to do it, where to do it, how long to do it, etc. But the most important thing of life application is that we need to practice it first. Swami always talks about practice before preaching. So unless we have practiced the life application, the children would see it. They would see that you are just, you know, lip service, that you don't believe in this yourself. So it's very important for us to practice. And the beauty of this is that the practice of life application becomes our sadhana. It allows us to grow spiritually. So the preparation of it is really our own sadhana. And then how are we going to present this? So it's very important to allow some time to present the life application. I know when I was a new teacher, it was almost an afterthought. We would be wrapping up the class and then say, oh, okay, you know, go and do this homework, or, you know, this is our plan for, you know, to practice for this week. It was almost an afterthought, rushed through it in 60 seconds and was not given enough consideration. But as I grew, I understood how important it is to explain to the children exactly how they are supposed to do, what they are supposed to do, how long, all of that. So make sure that you time manage your class so that there is enough time to talk about life application, and make sure the children understand, make sure if they have any challenges, you are able to resolve them. And provide tools, provide some tracking tools for them to be able to see how they are doing. Right? So here's a sample that was followed in one of my group 1 classes years ago. And this was a tracking tool that we had given them, and they could you know, check off, and it was placed on the refrigerator in the house, middle of the kitchen, and they could check off whether they had done something each day or not. So something like this is a good follow-up for them, especially group 2 children, 1 and 2 who are young. And also it's good to encourage them, provide guidance. One of the key things about follow-up is communication with parents. Make sure the parents know what was covered in class and what the children are expected to do. So parental support becomes key to practice of life application. And it's also good to involve the family in practicing it, because when it's a united family effort, then there's a lot of momentum and energy, and children would succeed in practicing. So, you know, that's why parental and family involvement makes life application much easier, because then everyone in the family is doing it. The other thing to do to make it more fun is to maybe split the class in 2 or 3 groups and kind of make it a you know, competition, and see which group is doing the best, and based on that, maybe give them, you know, little award or something that they can offer to Swami. So that's another way to encourage and follow up. And always when we meet up the following week, always find out how they did. Were there any challenges? If they didn't do it, why they didn't do it? If they did, how did it feel once they practice the life application? Make sure there is that discussion in class when you meet the following week. And finally, I would like to share this quote from Swami, and he says that I ask that you sincerely and continuously practice what I teach. That alone is enough. I'll fill you with joy immeasurable. So, you know, like it was alluded earlier, life application is really a guru sadhana. And if we can follow what Swami is saying, and we can follow what we are, the spiritual principle that are being taught in the class, it's bound to give us a lot of joy and happiness. So with that, I offer this at Swami's lotus feet, and I thank all of you for your patient hearing, and I'm grateful to Swami for this opportunity.